Hi everyone, it's Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 363 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. Yesterday, Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed the nation, reports BBC News Ukraine. Besides his usual rhetoric of blaming Ukrainians for being neo-Nazis and NATO for planning the invasion of Russia, the Russian leader said that Moscow decided to suspend participation in the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty with the United States. The treaty provides for limits on the number of nuclear warheads, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and bombers for Russia and the United States, thereby ending the uncontrolled arms race. He also instructed the Ministry of Defense and Rosatom to ensure readiness for testing Russian nuclear weapons. At the same time, Putin promised that Russia will do tests only if the US does them first. NATO has already called on Russia to reconsider its decision on the nuclear deal. As Putin explained, NATO requires Russia to return to the treaty, including the admission of Western experts to Russian facilities. But this is the theater of the absurd in the current conditions. US State Secretary Antony Blinken also regrets Russia's decision. According to him, the United States is ready to discuss with Russia the issue of limiting strategic weapons at any time. He added that the US will be watching closely what Russia is actually doing and that the Biden administration will ensure appropriate measures are taken to ensure the security of the US and its allies. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky said that the threats of Putin to resume nuclear weapons tests are intimidation, to which no one seriously reacts, reports Interfax Ukraine. He also noticed with regret that representatives of the Kremlin already communicate as terrorists. The only difference is that the terrorists are wearing masks, and in Russia they don't even hide their faces anymore, the president said. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry called on the international community to provide a decisive response to Russia's aggressive behavior, to take urgent joint measures to prevent and counter any forms of nuclear blackmail by a terrorist state. The Highlights of Ukraine is an uncommercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the apps, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. Russian forces shelled the city of Kherson, reports Suspends. There were hits in a car park, residential areas, a high-rise building, and a public transport stop. At least 5 people died, another 16 were hospitalized. The President of Ukraine, in his evening video address, expressed his condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones. He pointed out that this Russian shelling did not and could not have any military purpose. I am confident that we will put the terrorist state in its place, all together, Ukrainians and the world, stressed Volodymyr Zelensky. Yesterday, US President Joe Biden presented a historic speech in Warsaw, Poland, after his visit to Ukraine, reports BBC News Ukraine. Biden said that Ukraine's allies will not tire of supporting it in the face of Russia's full-scale aggression, and Kyiv will never be defeated by Russia. Quote, "There should be no doubt our support for Ukraine will not waver. NATO will not be divided and we will not tire. President Putin's craven lust for land and power will fail. And Ukrainian people's love for their country will prevail. The democratic states of the world will defend their freedom today, tomorrow, and forever." Unquote. He stressed that 1 year ago the world was bracing for the fall of Kyiv. Quote, "Well, I have just come from a visit to Kyiv and I can report Kyiv stands strong, Kyiv stands proud, it stands tall, and most important, it stands free." Unquote. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni visited Kyiv yesterday, where she met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, reports European Pravda. She announced that in addition to the SAMP-T air defense systems, which Italy plans to transfer to Ukraine together with France, Rome will send other air defense systems as well. In particular, she was talking about Spada and Skyguard systems, which will help to protect infrastructure and citizens. She stressed that when there is an attack against the state, all weapons are defensive. At the same time, currently there is no question of sending aircraft. This decision must be made with international partners, said Meloni. The Italian Prime Minister informed that her country is preparing to host a conference on the reconstruction of Ukraine, which is to be held in April 2023. She expressed confidence that Italy can play a leading role in the issue of reconstruction of Ukraine as it has the needed expertise. President Volodymyr Zelensky signed a joint declaration with the Italian Prime Minister. The declaration states that Italy condemns the Russian aggression against Ukraine, takes into account Ukraine's path towards the accession to the EU and NATO, as well as the potential of developing bipartisan relations. The separate point is Kyiv and Rome supporting the program for exporting Ukrainian grain, as well as the EU's decision to give Ukraine a candidate country status. Moreover, the Italian side expresses its support of a global peace summit that has to be convened when conditions allow, and a fair peace agreement for Ukraine based on Ukraine's peace formula. If you like what we do and would like to tip us, you can now do so directly to our PayPal. Check out the link in the description to this episode for more details. And as usual, you can subscribe to our Patreon. In gratitude for your help, we will give you access to a series of exclusive episodes on wartime life in Ukraine. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.